Hello, BookTube. I'd like to do a little bit of a reading update of some volumes I've finished this month. I'm going to start off, appropriately enough, with The Library by Stuart Kells, Library, a Catalog of Wonders. This is Counterpoint, Berkeley, California, 2017. I'm a big fan of histories of reading, histories of literature, history of books, and in particular, history of libraries. Wonderful name for a author of a book about libraries I have, Kells, as we think of the Book of Kells. This was good. I mean, the problem with these types of books is a lot of times I've heard the story before. Here's our author. But this was, you get the usual stuff, the Library of Alexandria, preservation at Herculaneum, all these sorts of things. But it was well told, and the only criticisms I had, I wish it had had a better bibliography or notes or something like that. I thought that was sort of lacking. But yeah, it's a very, very, very good book. And then the next thing I read was May Sarton. I've always wanted to read her work, and I had a couple volumes sitting around. And this one, and both of these are journals. I have not read her fiction or her poetry. But here we have The House by the Sea. See if I can do this without glare. This one is a W.W. Norton Incorporated. It has photographs by Beverly Hallam. And this came out in 1977. And these are journal entries day to day, dealing with everything from literature to gardens to her home, some politics, the writing life, relationships, these sort of things. I really liked it. So this one, The House by the Sea, is in '73. May Sarton moved from the inland New Hampshire home that had been the scene of her creative and inner life. She powerfully probed in both Plant Dreaming Deep and Journal of Solitude. She then went to a house on the seacoast of Maine. So after I read it, I went back and then I read, and this one's a little beat up, but again, May Sarton. This is Plant Dreaming Deep. And you can tell the cover's a little banged up, but to an old house in New Hampshire, poet and novelist May Sarton brought a European heritage, a passion for gardening, and a need for solitude. In this sequel to I Knew a Phoenix, which I have not read, she tells the story of what compelled her to seek roots in a remote village, of finding her house, of what the planting was like, and what has grown from it in 10 years of struggle. Here we meet not only the poet herself, but all that surround her, the animals, birds, and occasional humans who are friends of the house. The violent changes of the climate, all that makes New England such a challenge to its inhabitants. So, I'm reading these a little out of order. It doesn't seem to matter. I mean, I dig right into them. I really, it's one of her ancestors. Yeah, it was enjoyable. I will hunt out the other volumes when this one came out, and this one came out in '68. I will hunt down the other ones and read them. Like I say, I have not read her poetry and have not read her fiction, but the journals really are engaging. So I enjoyed that. And then the next thing I finished is Brandon Sanderson, The Way of Kings, Stormlight Archive. Big old healthy paperback here. Tor Books. When did this come out? This is from Tom Doherty Associates book, but 2010. really enjoyed it. You got Dalinar, who is the brother to a murdered king. You got Kaladin, soldier, son of a surgeon, trained to be a surgeon, ends up joining the army, and everything goes wrong, and he ends up being a slave, a bridge runner, which means you're basically a target. Fascinating character. Then you had Szeth, S-Z-E-T-H, who is what they call a truthless of Shinovar. He's like a white runner. He's an assassin, but very conflicted and fascinating character in his own right. And then you also have Shallan. I always want to say Shalom, but it's Shallan, a young girl whose family is in a bit of stress. She, by subterfuge, ends up being a student of Jasna, who's a member of the royal family and a scholar. Her sketchbook, she's an artist, and her sketches are very important. And some of them are reproduced in the book. So those four characters, Dalinar, Kaladin, Shallan, and then Szeth, a lot of this centers around them, but in this volume, Kaladin seems to be the main focus, and I really was engaged with the story. So excellent book. I'm already into the second volume of the Stormlight archive, and very much enjoying it. So that's basically the last couple weeks of reading. Summertime is pretty busy around here, so we get the reading time in when we can. So let me know what you've been reading, and thank you, BookTube.